Hello everyone, welcome to our podcast. My name is John and I will be your host, and today I'm really happy to welcome Anne Louvet with us. So Anne, you're going to tell me how sustainable livelihoods and female empowerment can be developed through fragrance training and craft soap making, an initiative which has been conducted over the past few years in a refugee camp in Jordan. But first, I want to know all about you. Tell me what you do and how did you get involved in such a project?
Hi, I'm Anne Louvet and I'm Global Business Director at Givaudan. Givaudan is the global industry leader in taste and well-being, fragrance and beauty. We craft flavours and fragrances as well as ingredients for cosmetics. I lead a global sales team developing bespoke fragrance solutions for one of Givaudan's largest FMCG accounts. In 2017, Givaudan was approached by one of our clients who was supporting a new project run by Professor Helen Storey of the London College of Fashion to develop sustainable livelihoods for Syrian women in the Zaatari refugee camp in Jordan. Together with Helen, we began to brainstorm ideas of how fragrance could be used as a vehicle for female empowerment and to create small business opportunities for women. We received funding from the Givaudan Foundation and created a series of workshops to train the ladies to produce fragranced craft soaps. And it's very important to note that we managed the project in collaboration with two NGO partners, UNHCR and Blumont. The opportunity was also built upon the women's existing skills and community activities. Without this collective collaboration, none of what we have achieved would have been possible.
All right, so tell me more about how do people actually live on a camp? What are the living conditions on a refugee camp as a woman?
As you can imagine, living conditions are extremely difficult for everyone in the camp, and especially for women and for the many children who are growing up there. As a result of the war, there are many female-led households, and it's extremely difficult for the women to develop any kind of professional activity whilst also looking after their children. As a result, many of the refugees are dependent upon NGOs to survive, and they're living in extreme poverty. Currently, there are 70,000 refugees living in Zaatari. The camp itself is in the desert, more than 2 hours' drive north of Amman. For much of the year, the temperature is very hot and dry, but in winter, the temperatures can fall below freezing, and there are periods of heavy rain, which causes flooding. The refugees are housed in caravans which resemble small shipping containers, and each family will have 2 or 3 containers depending upon the size of their family. The NGOs work tirelessly to improve the insulation of the caravans, but as you can imagine, living in a tin box in the desert is really tough.
I see. It must be terribly difficult. And that leads us to the project itself. I understand Givaudan volunteers have trained over 100 women since 2017. How was it made possible?
We've run 2 to 3 workshops per year since 2017, providing training in soap making and also introducing the notion of brand development. Through the workshops, we met a group of ladies whose dream was to create a self-sustaining beauty co-op. During the long drive back from camp to Amman one evening, Helen Storey and I came up with the idea of using the same containers in which the refugees are housed to create a physical making space for women. We pitched this idea to the NGO Livelihoods team, and thanks to financial support from UNHCR and the Givaudan Foundation and technical support from Blumont and Givaudan volunteers, the Made in Zaatari Centre was built and it opened on International Women's Day in 2018. The centre's made up of 4 caravans. There's a soap and fragrance lab, a beauty salon, a shop and a professional kitchen. Importantly, there's also a space for childcare. The caravans are arranged around a central courtyard where women can meet and relax. In 2019, Helen Storey became the first ever UNHCR designer in residence, and the UNHCR recognised the projects being developed in Zaatari as a global benchmark for sustainable livelihood development.
That's really amazing. But then COVID-19 struck, and what happened?
COVID travel restrictions made it impossible to visit Jordan in 2020. At the beginning of the pandemic, the Made in Zaatari soap makers were commissioned by Oxfam to create 1,000 soaps for distribution in camp in order to facilitate hand hygiene, but unfortunately the centre was then forced to close as the camp went into complete lockdown. The pandemic created a return to complete dependency on NGO aid for the entire refugee population.
That's a shame, really. So, what are the next steps now?
2021 is going to be a busy year. UNHCR have announced that female empowerment and enhancing livelihoods are their two key priorities for the year, and this is providing great momentum for projects such as the Made in Zaatari Centre. We're currently exploring ways to continue our activities from a distance. We continue to work very closely with Helen Storey, and we're extending our network of local external partnerships in order to restart and professionalise the soap-making activities and to expand into other product formats such as liquid hand wash and hand sanitizer in order to create a more robust business model for the women. For example, we're really excited to have created a partnership with one of Givaudan's clients in Jordan, who has volunteered to help with training and technical advice. Thanks to the renewed support from the Givaudan Foundation, we're also planning a series of educational workshops for adolescent girls and boys. Via a series of webinars and practical team-based projects, we hope to not only reinforce messages about hygiene and health, but to also awaken their curiosity in science, product development and consumer market research. Opportunities for refugees in Jordan to attend higher education are growing. We hope that we can provide insights into some of the career opportunities surrounding fragrances and cosmetic products.
And what would be your advice to anyone who would like to help and support refugees?
For anyone who'd like to start a project, it's crucial to work with the NGOs who are present in the camps and who can advise which activities would bring value, as well as providing expert guidance and support on the ground. Secondly, when you're working with vulnerable communities, it's really important to have a long-term approach and not to overpromise. Finally, don't be prescriptive. Take the time to discover which activities are of interest to the refugees. What are their existing skill sets? What would they like to achieve? If you'd like to make a donation to UNHCR or any of the other NGOs who are doing great work with refugee populations around the world, you can find details on their websites.
Well, thank you very much, Anne, for being with us today. I wish you all the best of success in the next steps of this amazing project.
Thank you.